Captain Li Guan walked slowly down the long hallway of the Galactic Federation space station. Her boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. She kept her eyes down and her shoulders bent forward. To anyone watching, she looked like a nervous human who was still scared of being in space. But Li Guan was not scared at all. She had been flying spaceships for 20 years. She had fought in 3 wars that the galaxy did not know about. Right now, she was counting the guard positions and recording the layout of the station with a tiny camera hidden in her uniform button. "Captain Li," called a voice behind her. She turned around and put on a big, fake smile. Ambassador Vexel was walking toward her. He was from the Corvan Empire. Vexel was 8 feet tall, with gray skin and 4 arms. His people thought they were the strongest in the galaxy. "Ambassador Vexul," Li Guan said, bowing her head. "Thank you for letting me visit your beautiful station." Vexul laughed. It sounded like rocks falling down a mountain. Humans are so polite, so... cute. Like little children who just learned to walk. Li Guan smiled wider. Inside her head, she was thinking about 17 different ways to kill Vexul with just her hands. But she nodded like she was happy to hear his words. "We are very grateful for your protection," she said. "Humans are still learning about space. We need wise teachers like you." This was a lie. Humans had been traveling between stars for 300 years. They had built cities on distant worlds and fought wars across whole solar systems. But the galaxy did not know this. The galaxy thought humans had just discovered space travel 3 years ago. The plan was simple. Let the aliens think humans were weak and stupid. Smile and bow and say thank you. Learn everything about their weapons, their ships, their plans. Then, when the time was right, show them what humans could really do. "Come," Vexel said, waving one of his forearms. "Ambassador Park Minho is waiting for you in the meeting room. We have important things to discuss about Earth's future." They walked together through the station. Li Guan kept acting nervous and amazed by everything she saw. But her trained eyes were recording every detail. She saw that the Corvan guards were lazy. They did not watch the hallways carefully. She saw that their weapons were old and slow to charge. She saw that the station's power core was poorly protected. All of this information would go into her report tonight. The meeting room was huge and round. In the center was a large table made of some kind of blue crystal. Around the table sat representatives from all the major alien races in the galaxy. Ambassador Park Minho was already there. He was sitting in a chair that was too big for him. Looking small and worried, he saw Li Guan. He gave her a quick nod. To the aliens, it looked like a greeting between nervous humans. But Li Guan knew the real meaning. Park was telling her that everything was going according to plan. "Ah, Captain Li," Park said in English. "Please, sit down." The ambassadors were just explaining Earth's new responsibilities to the galaxy. Li Guan sat in another oversized chair. She had to climb up into it like a child. Aliens found this very funny. They made sounds that were supposed to be laughter. "Yes," said Ambassador Velthar from the Crystal People. Her voice sounded like singing glass. "We have decided that Earth will provide materials for the good of all galaxy citizens." "Materials?" Li Guan asked, making her voice sound confused. Vexel opened a holographic display above the table. It showed Earth spinning slowly in space. Numbers appeared around the planet. "Your world has many useful metals and crystals," he said. "We calculate that Earth can provide 80% of its rare materials to the galaxy. This will help everyone." 80%, Park Minho said, his eyes getting wide. "But what about the people of Earth? What will we use?" The alien ambassadors looked at each other. Some of them made sounds that Li Guan knew were laughter. They thought the question was silly. "Your people will learn to need less," said Ambassador Nimrus from the Gas People. Her voice came from a floating cloud inside. "A clear container. This is good for human development. Hard work makes species strong." Li Guan watched Park Minho's face. He looked scared and sad. But she could see the tiny muscle movements around his eyes. Park was angry. Very angry. But he hid it perfectly. "Of course," Park said, his voice shaking a little. "We want to help. The galaxy? But 80% seems like maybe too much." Exul slammed one of his big hands on the table. The sound echoed through the room like thunder. "This is not a discussion, human," he said, his voice getting deep and scary. "This is what will happen. Your species needs protection. The galaxy is dangerous. There are pirates and wars and terrible things that could hurt your small, weak people." He leaned forward. His red eyes stared at Park Minho. "We are offering to keep you safe," the Exul continued. "In return, you give us materials and workers. This is a fair trade, a very generous trade." "And if we say no?" Li Juan asked quietly. The room became very silent. All the alien ambassadors turned to look at her. Their faces showed surprise. They were not used to humans asking difficult questions. Dexul smiled. His teeth were like sharp metal spears. "Humans are smart enough not to say no," he said. "I'm sure of this, because saying no would be ... unfortunate. Very unfortunate." Park Minho looked down at his hands. He was quiet for a long time. Li Guan could see him breathing slowly like he was trying to stay calm. Finally, Park looked up. His face was pale, and his eyes looked wet, like he might cry. "We accept," he said in a small voice. "Earth will give 80% of our materials to the galaxy. We are grateful for your protection." The aliens made happy sounds. They talked among themselves in their own languages. It's probably saying things about how easy it was to control humans. But Li Juan was watching Park Minho's hands. With his fingers, he was tapping a code on his leg. A code that only other humans would understand. The message was simple. Phase 2 begins now. As the meeting ended and the aliens celebrated their victory, Li Guan smiled and bowed and said, "All the right things." But in her mind, she was already planning. Soon, very soon, these aliens would learn what humans were really like when they stopped pretending to be weak. The act had been fun while it lasted. But now it was time for the galaxy to meet the real human race, and the galaxy was not going to like what it found. 6 months had passed since Earth signed the protection agreement. To the galaxy, humans had become the perfect servants. They worked hard, complained little, and always said please and thank you. But the humans were very busy doing other things. 2. Engineer Cho Hyun-woo was fixing a broken communication array on Corvin Station 7. At least, that was what his work papers said. The Corvin guards watched him work, but they were bored. Humans had been fixing their equipment for months now. They did good work and never caused trouble. Cho Hyun-woo smiled at the guards and waved his small human tools. "Almost finished," he said in his broken Corvin language. "I'm very sorry for taking so long." The guards laughed at his bad pronunciation and walked away. As soon as they were gone, Cho Hyun-woo opened a hidden panel in his toolbox. Inside was a device that looked like a simple computer tablet, but this tablet could do things that would make the Corvin Empire very unhappy. He plugged it into the communication array's main processor. Numbers and codes flashed across the screen. In 30 seconds, the device had copied every communication frequency the Koreans used. Their military channels, their secret diplomatic codes, their emergency protocols, everything. At it. Hyun-woo whispered to himself. He put the device away and finished his repair work. The communication array worked perfectly now, maybe even better than before. The Koreans would be very happy with him. They had no idea that their entire communication network was now an open book to humanity, 3 systems away. Pilot Song Yoonbi was flying a cargo ship full of rare metals from Earth to the Velthan homeworld. The Crystal People had ordered 50 tons of titanium for their art projects. Song Yoonbi smiled and nodded when they gave her the delivery route. But Song Yoonbi was not just following the route they gave her. Her cargo ship had special sensors hidden in its hull. As she flew through hyperspace, these sensors were mapping every jump point, every fuel station, every trade route in this part of the galaxy. Her ship's computer was recording the locations of military bases, the strength of defense grids, the patrol schedules of alien fleets. To the aliens, she was Just another human pilot doing her job. They did not know that Song Yunbi had been flying military reconnaissance missions for 15 years. They did not know that her cargo ship had weapon systems that could destroy most alien warships. Cargo Ship 7 to Velthon Control, she said into her radio, using the sweet, nervous voice that aliens expected from humans. I'm approaching your beautiful system now. Thank you for letting me visit. Welcome, little human, came the reply. Please follow the shipping lane. Do not deviate from the approved path. Of course not, Song Yunbi said. I would never do. Anything wrong? But her sensors were recording everything. Every defensive position, every weak point in their planetary shield, every backup power station. All of this information would be sent back to Earth through secret channels. On the mining world of Kepler-44 to B. Dr. Kang Wujin was running what the aliens thought was a medical clinic for human workers. The mining company wanted to keep their human employees healthy, so they let Dr. Kong set up his small hospital. Dr. Kong was indeed keeping the humans healthy. But he was doing much more than that. Every alien who came to his clinic for minor injuries or checkups gave him samples. A drop of blood here, a tissue sample there, a scan of their internal organs for safety purposes. The aliens thought this was very thoughtful of the human doctor. Dr. Kong smiled and gave them medicine and sent them on their way. Then he took their biological samples to his secret laboratory in the basement of the clinic. He had been studying alien biology for 6 months now. He knew which chemicals would poison Corvin blood. He knew what frequencies would shatter Velthon. Crystal bodies. He knew how to disrupt the gas bonds that held Namiri beings together. Fascinating, Dr. Kong said to himself as he looked at Corvin blood cells under his microscope. Their immune system has a very interesting weakness. He made notes in a file that was encrypted with codes the aliens could never break. Soon, this information would join the reports from Cho Hai-Yunwoo and Song Yunbi and thousands of other humans across the galaxy. But everything changed on a Tuesday. The trouble started on Kepler-4 for 2B. The human mining colony there had been digging rare crystals from the planet's crust for 4 months. They worked hard and met every quota the Corvin Empire set for them. Then the Corians decided they wanted more. The production numbers are not sufficient, announced Commander Zechtel over the colony's communication system. His voice boomed through every building on the planet. Will increase crystal extraction by 40% immediately. Colonel Bei Soyang, who was in charge of the mining operation, listened to the announcement with a calm face. But inside, she was doing calculations. 40% more mining would require working the human miners 18 hours a day. Many of them would get sick. Some would die. She activated her communication system. Commander Zechtel. This is Mining Administrator Bei. I respectfully request a meeting to discuss these new requirements. There is nothing to discuss, came the reply. You have 3 days to increase production. If you fail, there will be consequences. Colonel Bei looked out the window of her office. She could see human families walking to their homes after a long day of work, children playing in the small park they had built, people living normal lives, thinking they were safe. She activated a secure communication channel that the aliens did not know existed. Earth Command, this is Kepler Colony, she said quietly. We have a problem. The response came back in less than a minute. Understood, Kepler Colony. Stand by for instructions. For 2 days, Colonel Bei tried to negotiate with the Corians. She explained that humans needed rest. She showed them safety reports about mining accidents. She offered alternative solutions. Commander Zechtel laughed at every suggestion. Humans are workers, he said. Workers work. If some of you get tired or hurt, we can always bring more workers from Earth. Your planet has billions of replacements. The 3rd day, Colonel Bei sent one final message to the Corvin fleet orbiting above the planet. Commander Zechtel, she said, her voice very calm and very cold. I am officially informing you that this colony cannot meet your new production requirements. We respectfully decline your demands. There was silence on the communication channel for several minutes. Then Commander Zechtel's voice came back, filled with anger and disbelief. You... decline. You refuse our orders? That is correct, Colonel Bei said. Impossible. Humans do not refuse. Humans do what they are told. Colonel Bay looked up at the sky, where she knew 3 massive Corvin warships were floating in space. Each ship carried enough firepower to destroy a city. "Commander," she said, and now her voice carried a tone that no alien had ever heard from a human before. It was the voice of someone who was not afraid, someone who was ready for war. "Should leave. Now." Commander Zechtel made a sound that was probably laughter. "Or what, little human? What will you do to stop us?" Colonel Bay smiled. It was not a nice smile. "You're about to find out," she said. Then she closed the communication channel and sent a single coded message to every human on Kepler 4 to B. The message was 2 words: drop act. All across the galaxy, humans working in mines and factories and spaceships received similar messages. The Great Deception was about to end. The aliens were about to learn what humans really were. Commander Zechtel looked down at the human mining colony from his warship's bridge. 3 Corvin dreadnoughts floated in space above, Kepler 4 to B. Each ship was the size of a small city and carried enough weapons to destroy continents. "Prepare orbital bombardment," Zechtel ordered his crew. "Target the main mining facility. We will teach these humans what happens when they refuse our commands." The weapons officer began charging the main cannons. It would take 2 minutes to build enough power to destroy the human colony. On the planet below, Colonel Bei Soyang stood in her office, watching the Corvin ships through her window. She looked very calm. To calm, she pressed a button on her desk. "All units," she said into her communicator. "Operation Sunrise is now active. Repeat, Operation Sunrise is active." Across the mining colony, things began to change. The large mining equipment that had been digging crystals from the ground suddenly stopped working. But they did not break down. Instead, they began to transform. Huge metal panels slid away from what the aliens thought were drilling machines. Underneath were massive cannons pointing up at the sky. The mining facility split open like a flower, revealing a military base that had been hiding beneath it. The cargo containers scattered around the colony opened up. Inside were not mining supplies, but rows of missiles that rose up and aimed at the Corvin ships. Even the small houses where human families lived began to change. Their walls slid apart, showing weapon platforms and shield generators in space. The 3 human cargo ships that had been delivering supplies to the colony suddenly dropped their outer hulls. Underneath were sleek warships with weapons that glowed with strange energy. Commander Zechtel stared at his screens in shock. What is happening?" he whispered. "Sir?" called his weapons officer. "The humans are targeting us with some kind of... I don't know what these weapons are. I've never seen technology like this." On the planet, Colonel Bei Soyang activated her communicator again. "Attention Corvin vessels," she said, and her voice was no longer the nervous tone the aliens were used to hearing from humans. It was cold and commanding. "You have 30 seconds to leave this system. This is your only warning." Zechtel found his voice. "You cannot threaten us. We are the Corvin Empire. Your tiny weapons cannot hurt our mighty ships." 15 seconds. Colonel Bay said. "Fire all weapons," Zechtel screamed. "Destroy them all." The Corvin dreadnoughts unleashed their full firepower. Massive energy beams shot down toward the planet. Enough destructive power to kill millions of people. The beams hit a shimmering barrier that appeared around the human colony. The barrier absorbed the attacks like they were nothing more than raindrops. "Impossible," Zechtel breathed. "Time is up," Colonel Bay said. The human weapons fired. What happened next lasted exactly 17 seconds. The alien weapons that had ruled the galaxy for centuries simply stopped working when strange energy fields surrounded the Corvin ships. The mighty dreadnoughts found their hulls dissolving as molecular weapons broke apart, their metal like it was made of sand. Commander Zechtel had just enough time to send one message before his ship vanished. "All units, the humans... they are not what we thought." And there was silence. Colonel Bay activated the Galactic Communication Network. Her message went to every alien government, every military base, every space station in the galaxy. "This is Colonel Bei Soyang of the Terran Defense Force," she said. "We tried to be nice. We tried to fit in. You would not let us." Across the galaxy, Similar scenes played out on dozens of worlds. Human workers revealed themselves as soldiers. Human cargo ships became warships. Human mining operations became military bases. The masquerade was over. Admiral Lim Juan stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable. The ship was so large that it had its own gravity and weather systems. When it appeared in the heart of Corvin space, it blocked out the sun of 3 planets. "This is Admiral Lim. Of the Terran Defense Force," he broadcast to the Corvin fleet that had assembled to fight the humans. "You have one chance to surrender. Take it." The Corvin Admiral Vekvar looked at the human ship on his screens. It was bigger than anything the Corians had ever built. Its hull seemed to shift and change like it existed in several dimensions. "At once, we do not surrender to primitive humans." Vekvar shouted back. "Attack. All ships attack." 1,000 Corvin warships opened fire on the human dreadnought. Energy beams and missiles filled space. Like a deadly light show. The Indomitable did not even slow down. The weapons simply passed through the ship's hull like it was made of mist. Then the human ship became solid again, completely undamaged. "Turn," Admiral Lim said quietly. The Indomitable fired a single shot. The energy beam split into 1,000 smaller beams, each one finding a Corvin ship. In less than 3 seconds, the entire Corvin fleet simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not exploded. They just stopped being there, Admiral Vekvar had. Time for one last thought. What kind of monsters did we wake up? Across the galaxy, the other alien races tried to fight back. But they had the same problem the Corians did. They were fighting an enemy that had been studying them for months, while pretending to be weak and harmless. The Crystal Velthans found their cities, shattering as human sound weapons vibrated at exactly the right frequency to break their bodies apart. The gas Nimiri discovered that humans could create pressure waves that scattered their beings across space. Every alien weakness that Dr. Kong Woojin and thousands of other human scientists had discovered was now being used against them. But the worst part was not the human weapons. The worst part was that humans had been everywhere. Every alien computer system, every communication network, every defense grid had been quietly infiltrated by human AI. Programs over the past 6 months, the aliens could not even talk to each other to coordinate their defense. Their own computers were working for humanity now. Captain Li Juan, now revealed as Grand Admiral Li, led the assault on the Galactic Federation capital. Her flagship, the UES Retribution, materialized directly inside the space station's shields. "Impossible," gasped Ambassador Thexel as he watched human soldiers march through the station's corridors. "Your ship. How did you get past our defenses?" "We built those defenses," Admiral Lee replied. "Did you think we were really just fixing your equipment? All this time?" The surrender came 72 hours after the first human attack. 1 year later, President Yu Jisoo sat in her office on Earth, looking out at the orbital defense platforms that now surrounded the planet. They were no longer hidden. The whole galaxy could see humanity's true military power. A holographic display showed the reformed Galactic Council. Representatives from all the alien races sat in chairs that were now the right size for humans, not aliens. The aliens sat in smaller chairs off to the side. "The Terran Protectorate has been very successful," President Yu announced to the Council. "Crime rates across the galaxy are down 90%. Trade disputes have ended. Wars have stopped." Ambassador Thexel, who was now wearing a collar that would shock him if he spoke without permission, raised one of his hands. "You may speak." President Yu said, "Why?" The Guzul asked, his voice small and defeated. "Why did you pretend to be weak? Why did you let us think we were in control?" President Yu smiled. It was not a cruel smile, but it was not kind either. "Because we wanted to see what kind of neighbors you would be," she said. "We hoped you would be fair and friendly. Instead, you tried to enslave us." She stood up and walked to the window. Outside, alien ships were landing with cargo tribute from worlds that had once looked down on humanity. "We spent 3,000 years learning how to be civilized," she continued. "We fought wars among ourselves until we understood that cooperation was better than conquest. We developed art and music and philosophy. We learned diplomacy and patience. She turned back to face the council. But we never forgot how to be predators when we needed to be. Dr. Kimnari published her research 6 months later. The report was called Galactic Species Analysis: Biological and Social Vulnerabilities. It explained exactly how humans had identified ways to defeat every alien race within the first month of contact. The galaxy read the report in horror. They realized that humans had never been the confused newcomers they pretended to be. They had been visited by apex predators who chose to play friendly until the neighbors got too aggressive. Admiral Lim Jawan stood on the observation deck of the orbital fortress New Geneva, watching as another group of alien diplomats arrived to pay their monthly tribute to Earth. Their ships were small, and their weapons were limited. Humanity had made sure of that. "Admiral," said his aide, Commander Song Yunbi, "the Velthan delegation is requesting permission to increase their crystal art production. They want to make a statue honoring human protection." Admiral Lim nodded. "Grant their request. But make sure the statue includes a plaque with the words, 'Be careful what you wish for.'" He watched the alien ships dock with the station. Once, these beings had called humans cute and primitive. They had laughed at human weakness and planned to use Earth as their private resource mine. Now they brought gifts and begged for permission to exist. They wanted to see what humanity was capable of when we stopped pretending to be weak, Admiral Lim said quietly. They should have been more careful what they wished for. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Never underestimate the species that chooses to be kind. Because when that kindness ends, what comes next is usually much, much worse. Humanity had tried to be good neighbors. When that failed, they became something else entirely. They became themselves.